Hey there, everyone. If you have a podcast and you are either repurposing it to YouTube or you want to repurpose to YouTube, you don't want to miss this episode. I have an expert that's going to share a little bit of tips for you so you can get more bang out of your buck when you're creating content. So stay tuned. Hello, hello. I am so excited today. I have a special guest. He is a post-production editor for video and photography, and he knows a little bit about YouTube. But I am real excited to introduce to you Chris Shadrick. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Mom, how's it going?
Yes, he is my son. And I could say for a fact that he's been interested in all of this stuff for over a decade. It's been his passion, hasn't it, Chris?
Oh, yeah. No, since I was in middle school, probably.
Yeah, it's been a while. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've been doing, because I know you've been doing a lot of stuff and you're getting ready to start a new chapter somewhere else, right? You're in the process of moving. So give us a little bit of context. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I started in movie production and film. That's kind of what I went into college for. And then I eventually moved to LA and I was, working, different internships at video production companies. I was doing screenplay coverage on movie scripts that were to be produced by big studios and stuff like that for a while I lived in LA. And then I kind of fell into the photography industry through a friend where I was like shooting high-end cars, Mercedes and Lexus, and editing them and then uploading them to dealership websites. And then when I moved to San Francisco, just to kind of extend my resume, I got a job at a photo studio for a pretty well-known rock and roll photographer doing, retouching for his work, running the studio, backing up all of his stuff, making prints, scanning 35 millimeter prints, or film rather. Yeah, so I've kind of been in and out of both video and photography, and I'm going into another photo job in Nashville, Tennessee here in the next few weeks, and then still trying to do video editing on the side as well.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. You're off to Nashville, right? You're going to move from San Francisco to Nashville. So that'll be fun for me to come visit because I love Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah. Yep. Anytime.
Yeah. So Chris, the reason why I wanted to bring you on is because you know so much about video and you know a lot about YouTube and you enjoy it yourself. And I know a lot of podcasters out there, they either are currently repurposing their audio content to YouTube, they're recording it at the same time, maybe through Zoom, recording it and putting it on YouTube, or maybe they have a desire to do that and they haven't started yet. But when we talked not that long ago, you were sharing some things that I thought were really interesting, and I wanted you to talk about, what is the best practice for podcasters when they're thinking about sharing content on YouTube. So what are your thoughts? Is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? What should they think of first if a podcaster wants to share their content on YouTube?
Well, it's always a good idea to get as much content out as possible. So it depends on what you're doing and who you're trying to reach. But I mean, if you have a podcast and you want to put it on YouTube, you have to take the best parts of that conversation and put them into clips. So if you go to any of the big podcasters, then, look up, whoever the big podcasters are and the demographic you're trying to reach, and watch what they do with YouTube, because they'll put the whole thing on YouTube, but people aren't going to automatically go to that full podcast by just reading the title. You want to take the best kind of clips from that podcast, and it's okay to take the best ones because people, if they like what they're seeing in a 2-minute clip, they're going to go watch the full thing. You want to split it up into clips so that you can reach the most amount of people possible, because there's a certain segment of people online that won't watch the full or listen to the full podcast. They just want to have condensed kind of versions of that. And those people are still valuable to whatever you're trying to do. Then there's going to be another subsect of people that will watch the clips and automatically go to the full version because they like what they've heard so far. So you want to split it up into as much content as possible from one recording.
So if they have, say, a half an hour or hour podcasts by clips, How long are these clips? You're taking a section of it that's enticing, or maybe creating curiosity or something that's really engaging. How long are the clips usually?
It just depends how long your podcast is. Like some
Okay.
podcasters go like 3 hours. So there might be a good little portion of that conversation to where that are 15 minutes. You know what I mean? It
Oh,
just depends how long your podcast is and what you're trying to do with the clips. Like if you have a shorter podcast that's a half hour to an hour, maybe take 2 or 3 segments from that podcast, make some 2-minute clips, and always have an outro. And an outro means like, after the clip is done, there's a pre-recorded video that pops up right after the clip of you telling people where they can find you, whether that's Spotify, YouTube, Apple. If you have a blog, you want to kind of cover all that in the outro so that people know where to find you, and also have that information in the description as well.
got you. So they pre-record the outro with the call to action, and they can use that same one on every single
Yeah,
video,
on
right?
every single one. It doesn't have to be different. Yeah.
Okay. So
Unless there's something specific that you're trying to either sell or get people to buy, you might do another outro clip with all
yeah.
the same information, but include whatever you're trying to sell, and then have that outro clip, in your next, month of clips that you're producing, and then or however long you want it to be, and then go back to,
To the default one.
to the,
Yeah.
or just have that as the updated version.
Gotcha. So if you have a special promotion, a campaign, you might want to create a different outro with a
Yeah.
different call to action so that you
Yeah.
can get, people to buy or to join or whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
Yep.
Awesome. So what would the process look like if they have the audio and they've recorded it? So they've recorded the audio and they recorded the video at the same time. Much of what we're doing right now, we're on Zoom recording the visual, and we're also recording the audio. So they uploaded the audio and they got their podcast up. Then they take the video and then they upload the whole thing first, or do they do the clips first and shoot out the clips? What's the order? What would it look like on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
It
What would
depends
it look
what you
like?
want. It depends what you want to do. I would suggest uploading the full podcast first and then the clips, but have them all prepared. So while you're editing the full podcast, take time code notes when you're editing, being like, 1.5 minutes to 5 minutes is a really good clip. Take notes of that. Once you're done editing your full podcast, go back and take those clips into a new editing window, and then just add your intro, add your outro, whatever they may be, and then save all those clips with your full podcast, and then release your podcast on your YouTube channel. And then as far as the clip goes, you can release them all at once, because they're all going to have a specific title and a specific topic for that 2 minutes in the clip. Or you can release them, consecutively throughout the days. And you can find on Google, like the peak times when people are kind of perusing YouTube and stuff like that. You can schedule them to be released on YouTube. Like you can upload them to YouTube and set a schedule to be
Oh,
released like
yeah.
at like maybe 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. or something like that. Kind of do a little research and figure out whatever demographic you're reaching is the peak time that they're kind of perusing YouTube, and have those clips be set to be released then.
That's right. I forgot about that. So you can
Yeah.
actually upload the whole podcast, the visual podcast, to YouTube, and then you could schedule out the clips, and you
Yeah.
could just, it's like you're uploading a video. It just happens to be just a section or a snippet of the full podcast, but it's not the whole
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
it could be as long as, can you just create yeah, you can create a 3-minute
Mhm.
video that you upload on YouTube, and you treat it as if it's a standalone with
Yeah.
headline, a thumbnail, the show notes, and everything. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you might have a certain time that your podcast is released every week. So just make sure you hit that time every single week so that it's consistent, so people know when to look for it. But then the clips can be released, at your leisure, whenever you want. You can upload it directly with the full podcast, or you can have the clips come out consecutively throughout the next few days.
Yeah, I love that because you never know what's going to engage or attract somebody that's listening based
Yeah.
or looking at thumbnails.
Yeah.
It may be, it's almost like having multiple doors that they can come into your podcast, and you're
Yeah.
deciding what each door says on it. And then
Yep.
people will pick and choose based on what their interest is, even though the outcome's the same, it's the same podcast, but
Yeah.
they're choosing how to come into the podcast through these clips that you're creating.
Yep.
Right? Is that correct?
Yep. Exactly.
I
So
love
like,
that.
something like this, you might have like a minute clip of us talking about, outros and what should be in your outro. Then you could have another clip about scheduling, the how your clip should come out over
Mhm.
after you release the podcast. So you could have two clips right there
Mhm.
that could be of interest to people, because I mean, people will go on YouTube and search for anything like when should I release my podcast or whatever, and you want your clips to come up in the feed.
It's almost like beta testing your headlines because I do this on Facebook. When I run a Facebook ad,
Mhm.
I'll beta test 4 headlines to see which one gets more engagement.
Yeah.
So I'm not running an ad on YouTube, but at the same time, I'm putting more variations of my podcast out there to try to reach more people. So I love that concept, that idea. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and it is ways to get more people to find your podcast and kind of what you're all about and the content that you produce, because if you have a bunch of clips with different topics, they'll see that you can cover a wide range of things, or if you're one specific niche, it's just always good to have those clips available.
So is it a good idea to have an intro too? Because I have not done that. I
Th-
usually
th-
just have an image while
yeah,
the intro is going on, but I don't have an actual.
you should have a logo or an animation, not really an intro. So you shouldn't introduce the clip because people on YouTube want to get to the point
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
quickly. So like if you go on and you find people that have a title about what people want to see and they have 2 minutes of not getting to the point, people will click out of it. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right,
so they want what they're clicking on for.
right.
So they want the content immediately. So you want like a little logo to intro it, and that can
Yeah,
maybe be 5 seconds, of a
yeah,
logo. And then you want to get right into the topic that you're selling from the clip. And
yeah.
then the outro is just where people can find you.
I love it because then all these clips, I mean, YouTube is so easy to share, right?
Oh yeah.
You can share it everywhere.
Mhm.
I mean, on any platform. And then if you have a guest, you can give them not one YouTube link, but
Yeah.
you can give them 3 or 4 or 5 YouTube links, right?
Yeah, and it's way easier to share clips too, because if you're sharing a clip on Facebook or something, they can be like, here's a portion of our conversation, or the conversation I had with Marisa Shadrick about this and this. And if people like it, there can be a link to the video down there, and then they can obviously find you from there. So it's just kind of like a tunnel that gets people kind of funneled to your content. And if the clip is shorter and easier to share and interesting, more people will click on it.
Yeah, it's amazing how video has come such a long way. Because when you started, um, YouTube wasn't even around, was it?
No, when I started, YouTube wasn't around. Like I
So
used to.
you're not, I mean, you're older. Can I say how old you are?
Yeah, I don't care.
You're what? You just turned
31.
31, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
31. But there was no YouTube then, right?
No, when I was doing it, it was in the MySpace days, and that was before YouTube. So like I would make, little movies or little clips with my friends, and we would have to figure out how to embed them onto the MySpace page and how to get the video online. First, you'd have to find a social platform that would hold your videos. And a lot of times they were like terrible platforms. And you'd have to find it, and then you would have to get the embed code of that video by right clicking on it and going through the code and finding the video, and then going onto MySpace
Oh
and
man.
finding the right
Mhm.
place to put the code. And you'd have to look up like how to code video for MySpace. And then when YouTube came out, like that was around the time I think it came out in 2005 or 6 or 7, something like that. But I was already in high school, and was doing more stuff for like video stuff for the city and for high school and stuff like that.
I
So
remember you won awards too. You did
yeah,
some
yeah,
local stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, you did some local stuff and won awards. And you were actually I remember they started a video class in your high school.
uh-huh.
They had never had anything like that before.
Yeah.
And you were helping the teacher teach
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was so foreign, it was
Yeah.
so new, and yet you were like into it for so long.
Oh
So
yeah.
we've
Yeah.
come a long way. So now, if people are thinking, "Oh my gosh, that sounds like so much work to create clips," just remember back in the day,
Yeah.
MySpace days, where you had
Yeah.
to get code and do all this other stuff to be able to share. And now, once it's on, I mean, you could put a 2 minute, 3 minute clip and you've got that link and you can share it. I love that idea because it gives the content creator an opportunity to work on the quality of the podcast, the agenda, the outline, everything, put as much effort as they want. And now they're not just sharing it on the audio platforms, but now they're sharing it on the visual platform
Yeah.
with multiple clips. And that's a way to really get your content out there,
Yeah.
to a lot more people.
And,
So
and
that sounds great.
and a good thing to do is, like, let's say you have a clip that you want to share from the podcast. Do a search on YouTube for a similar video in the clip you're going to share, and try to come up with a better title or better hook than what you're seeing on the list when you search it. You want to be able to have not necessarily a clickbaity title, but you want an interesting and enticing title, and you want to make sure the thumbnail is interesting. So either use Photoshop or Canva or something like that. Gets free kind of free domain stock images. And there's websites that have those that you don't need to pay for, that are free domain.
Even Canva Pro has stock photos in it already.
Yeah.
That doesn't cost you anymore once you have Canva Pro. So,
or if you're good with Photoshop, and you have high quality video, take some screenshots of it and cut the people out, put a stroke around them, which is basically an outline and stuff like that, and put a background on it if you're good with Photoshop, and just make the thumbnail as interesting as possible so people will click on it.
So what's your thought on a lot of entrepreneurs, at least within my circle of influence, are trying to brand themselves? Is it better to have a stock photo, or is it better to have a photo of yourself? I always struggle with this. Should I have a photo of me, or should I have a stock photo? What's best? Is it just a matter of testing, or?
It just depends. Like, it depends what you're doing. Like, some people that do like let's say it depends if you are the personality of your podcast or if you want the content to really speak for itself. So like, if you're the personality and you have an audience, then yeah, it's probably better to include yourself and your guest and in the thumbnail, and then figure out an interesting way to show that. If you're like a tech channel that's like reviewing, Macs or iPod equipment or iPod podcasting equipment or stuff like that, then you'll want the equipment to be shown on the thumbnail, and then with the title written into the thumbnail as well as on the title itself, or it's like a question.
Have the title on the thumbnail too.
Yeah, if you can, like, let's say you're reviewing the Rodecaster Pro, which is a podcast thing. You would have like the title be the written title be "We are Rodecaster Pro review," but on the thumbnail it could be like, "Is the Rodecaster Pro the best podcast best for common users," or something like that, and have like a question mark, and then and then have a picture of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because the title on the thumbnail doesn't necessarily have to be the title of the video. It doesn't. Different, a variation.
Yeah, it could be a little different. It could be a question. It could be, you want it to be interesting and enticing to click, because most of the time people are looking at the thumbnail, not necessarily the name of the video.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's awesome. I know videos have come a long way. YouTube has come a long way. It's probably good to go through and make sure all the settings are set, because I just recently discovered that you can have a template for your show notes on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a late bloomer. What can I say? I went in there and I was just checking all of my settings, because there's lots of things you can add to your YouTube channel just by going through the settings, even the subscribe and all the other things. But I was able to create a template. So every time I upload a new video, in the description part, the show notes, the template appears, and then I don't have to recreate it every time. You would have thought I figured that out a long time ago, right?
And I would say enroll in YouTube University, which isn't an actual thing. What I mean by that is go onto YouTube and type in how to make the best possible podcast clips on YouTube, or go through how to make a great thumbnail. Like, go through and search questions in YouTube and do a lot of research, because there's a lot of people that have successful channels that will tell you how to do all this stuff, and how to use YouTube, like how to get the most out of publishing to YouTube and stuff like that, like how to use YouTube, and you'll find tons of information on YouTube itself on how to, maximize productivity when you're doing these clips and these videos all the time.
Right. Now, what if somebody has had a podcast for a while, but they never even thought of repurposing to YouTube? Now, my first question is, what if they never had visual recording when they did the audio? Because I think sometimes people repurpose the audio right onto YouTube. Does that work? Or is it better to have, say, the visual part while you're recording and the audio, and then repurpose that visual part that you've recorded on Zoom or wherever you've recorded it?
Well, if you're audio only, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you can get creative with that. Like, you can take sections of your audio only podcast and you can make like little through stock footage or animations or whatever, you can make little videos, like little short films out of just having the audio and then making a visual along on top of that.
Okay.
But that's going to take a lot more work, and that's when you're going to have to like get more creative with it. But if that's something you want to do, you can do that as well. If it's a podcast, a lot of times people will want to see you, but if you just want your YouTube channel to act as clips only and you only have audio, that would be one way to do it.
Yeah. Now, if they did record the video and the audio, and they haven't really leveraged YouTube by creating these clips, can they go back to some of maybe their high ranking podcast episodes? And is it too late, or is it okay to create those clips?
Just make sure you have the original audio and the original video, because you want it to be as high quality as possible. You don't want it to be compressed at all. So if you have all that stuff saved, go back and make clips out of all the other podcasts that you've done. And just make sure in the show description links, you have the link to the actual podcast, and make sure the number of the podcast is there and everything in the show descriptions. Just say this is from podcast 97, have the link, and then all the other podcast links you have, Spotify, iTunes, all that.
Yeah. If people are going to edit and put, because you mentioned having the possible short intro, but having an outro with a call to action, they could probably do that. I mean, I use Camtasia. I don't know, is there something better than Camtasia for people? It edits the video.
Oh, okay. Well,
editing software. Is there a simple video editing software? Is there a free video editing software?
Depends what you have. If you have a Mac, then iMovie is really simple to use. And again, I would, look up on YouTube how to edit podcast clips in iMovie, and stuff like that. You can be very specific on YouTube for whatever you have. So there's no really right way to do it. There's some people that edit on their phone,
Oh, wow.
Which I can't do because it's just, it's too much, but I'm
with you on that one.
Yeah. Which I need a computer and I need more options, but but it doesn't really matter as long as the content's getting out there. And like, you can, like I told you before, you can even go to Fiverr. You want to make it as professional as possible too. Fiverr is a place you can hire freelance work. It's relatively cheap, depending on who you choose, and get a logo made, get a short animation made, like a 15-second animation to introduce every single one of your videos. Like, even if it's just a logo spinning around with a sound effect or something, and then go right into what you're talking about. Don't like introduce it. Don't just, whatever the thumbnail and the title of the video said is going to be on there, go right into it. Because one thing that I know about YouTube is people don't like to wait around for the content. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. In fact, I mean, the concept has been around, but I never really connected it, because for the audio, we use Headliner that allows you to grab little audio clips and share it in different sizes. It could be the size of Twitter, it could be the size of an Instagram story or an Instagram post. And usually I only do one of them, right? But
Yeah.
this is a way to be able to create these visual clips and create a number of them and share those as well. So that gives you a lot of traction for the time you've spent recording, a podcast.
And don't forget also, depending on what video editing software you're using, I'm pretty sure iMovie has this too. Make sure you're exporting for whatever platform you're going for. So you'll have your main podcast, you'll have your clips ready to go in a folder. But then if you want to do Instagram stuff, go back into the clip and export it for those certain platforms, because you can usually export for Instagram, for Facebook, for these things. And that'll just optimize everything.
Gotcha.
And then have all the clips you want ready to go. And this is just the most efficient way to do it. I mean, you could do it any way you want, but it's good to have those clips ready to go for everything that you're going to post to, so you can get them out and circulating.
Great. This has been really, really helpful. It's a great way to really leverage the time you invest in content creation and be able to create these short little clips that are going to entice different people. I mean, different people are attracted by different things. So this is a great way to get more exposure. I really appreciate your time. So if somebody wanted to outsource this, how would they go about it? I mean, do you do this kind of work? Because I know you've been working a full-time job and you're going into a new job in Tennessee. Where's Nashville, Tennessee, right?
Yeah, Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, he just got the job and just trying to figure out where he's going to be. So, Nashville, Tennessee. Do you do this kind of thing where people could maybe contact you and
Oh yeah, no, I would do side stuff like this for sure. I'm always trying to get side work as a video editor to, broaden my resume. So, I mean, my email is cjshadrick@gmail.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, CJ Shadrick, or Chris Shadrick. Just look up one of those and you'll find me. But I'll
put that in the show notes.
Yeah,
awesome. So there'll be a link in the show notes. Awesome. Well, any last tips, any advice, any make sure you don't make these mistake type advice that
all I would say is do research on YouTube. People will visualize all this stuff for you. Whatever equipment you're using, whether it's iMovie or Premiere Pro or Photoshop or Fiverr, go on YouTube and do some research on how this stuff works so you can get more familiarized with it, because it can be a lot if you don't know any of these things. So do the research, take notes, figure out your strategy, and then emulate what you see in those tutorials. And that'll make it a lot easier for you. And you might be able to do all this stuff yourself. You never know.
Yeah. I love what Ryan Levesque says, emulate before you innovate. And it's not meant to copy, but we get inspired and we get ideas from what other people are doing, because it's always a moving needle, right? As far as what's working, what's not working. And we need to have our finger on the pulse so that we can leverage what we've invested time in this. And if we're creating a podcast and we're promoting a book or a course or some type of training program, I mean, wouldn't it be smart to cut up that podcast into segments, little sections, and have those working for you? Because that could mean a lot of revenue, right? At the end of the day.
Well, yeah, it also means just reaching the most amount of people you can and working with the attention spans that people have today,
That's true. Yeah. Because sometimes people only have a few minutes, and the clip can tell them enough to go and click or download or whatever it might be, or maybe even go back and listen to the entire episode. So in a world where time is of the essence, those clips can really help us do a lot. So thank you, Chris. I really appreciate this. I'm glad we finally had an opportunity to do this together. So
yeah, me too.
Awesome. And I know you're in the middle of packing because you're getting ready to move. So I appreciate it even more because you're busy.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Mom. Thanks.
All right, everybody. Take care.